Welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of the Spiritual Catalyst podcast where we talk about all things weird and woo. I am your host, the founder of the newerschool.com.au, Sarah Lyons, here back again. And today we have the beautiful Rebecca Skeele with us to talk about the challenges that come with following a sacred calling. Now, Rebecca is an author, spiritual mentor, and wisdom teacher, and she's known as an expert in teaching the inner spiritual tools to initiate a major life shift in consciousness. She is gifted at being clear, focused, and on the mark in guiding a clear path so her students can experience their divine reality. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. So glad to be here.
So good to have you here. So before we get into, I've got a few questions for you. I'd love to know how you came to be on this path, assisting your students with following their sacred callings and the challenges that come along with that.
So I'll try to be brief in my story, but let's just say I started working with people in 1990. And about 10 years after I had been working in the spiritual counseling field, I published my first book, You Can Make It Heaven, How to Enrich Your Life with Abundance and Loving. Now, this is an inside experience. It is not a destination. So the whole book is about really how to clear away everything we're not so we can live who we are. And I consider that a spiritual holy being. That is the way that I work with people and my path. But in 2005, I decided to start wisdom school. I understand you have a school too. And the school was to teach from the book because there's so much in the book. And I decided, I want to teach a course on this. So I was teaching my course and I was talking about heaven. And I began to speak about heaven in a way that I'd never spoken about it before. The words that came out of my mouth were words that I'd never said before. There was a vibration and an energy that started in my body. I started sweating. I started crying. I couldn't get words out. I started shaking. It was like I was having some kind of moment here. And I had to stop and kind of collect myself and go, whoa, what is this? Well, I realized in reflection that I was speaking from a place really, really deep inside that had never sort of opened up and tried to articulate and share. And it was much more of a vibration and a feeling and an embodiment. The words didn't really matter. It was how I felt and what was coming forward. So that was in 2005. And in reflection, again, more and more about that, I realized that heaven was my calling. Now, this just really rocked me. It was like, whoa, even though I was, I'd written a book about it. But when I realized it was my calling, I just went, wow, what does this mean? So I would say that's kind of the first challenge. When we get in touch with a calling, because I talk about calling a little differently than most people talk about calling. People say, oh, I was called into medicine, or I was called into teaching, or I was called into coaching, or I was called to be a mother or a parent. That's all great. I agree with all of that. But the calling I'm talking about is really from the depths of our soul, our essence of who we are. So, the first challenge is to really become comfortable with that. And what is that? And the first thing I would say about it's way bigger than you are. It was way bigger than me. I mean, my calling being heaven is like, oh, okay, what does this mean? So I pretty much went into hiding about it all. I just kind of went, well, we'll just kind of put this aside kind of thing. But of course, once you open it up, or once you discover it, or once you really get in touch with it, no, it doesn't leave you alone. I mean, it's been there all along. I believe that all of us have a divine blueprint that we came in on. And once that time, it's time, it's time. It's kind of like, okay. So the first two challenges are stop playing small and stop hiding
Yes.
because that was exactly what I was doing. I was still playing very, very small, and I was still really hiding, even though I was continuing my work, continuing teaching, you know, continuing opening up to my spiritual gifts. I was hiding. I just went, this can't be happening. Um, so that about 5 years later, uh, now I'm not saying it has to be that long for everyone, but this is my story. 5 years later, Spirit tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Okay, girlfriend, it's time. It's
Yeah.
time you start to bring this out in a bigger way." And that's what I've been doing for the last 14 years or so.
That's amazing. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think so many of our listeners are going to relate to this. You know, I myself do. I think it's a very common challenge in the early days, especially.
Mhm.
What did how did that hiding manifest for you? Because I know there's different layers to this. Uh,
Mhm.
Hiding for me might be different to what hiding was to you. You said you were still teaching. What were you
Mhm.
hiding from?
I was really hiding from saying what a bigger truth of
Yeah.
what was going on. I was trying to keep it really within sort of the confines of what I felt like people could accept, or what was palpable, or what wouldn't scare them off.
Yeah.
This was one of the big things I was so scared of. And the other thing, I was really into self-doubt. I mean, I thought, who am I to
Mm,
embody heaven? I mean, not that I'm the only one, but it's just like, what does this mean? You know, how am I going to do this? I didn't know what it looked like. I know what it felt like, but I really didn't know how to translate that into something I could share and something people would want to receive.
yeah.
And somewhere along the way, in those 5 years, when I was kind of playing hide and seek with, with my calling, is I realized that every time I did have the courage to say something, or to bring forth a teaching, or to work with a client in a certain way and bring forth that vibration and that energy, it was such a sacred time that I realized, oh, this is bringing forth a bigger blessing. This is bringing forth a blessing not only for me, but for whoever I'm working with. So that's when I realized that callings are sacred because they bring forth a blessing.
That is so beautiful. And I love that you say that. I have the very same perspective. Um, and I'm just really sitting with that because this is probably the biggest challenge that I have witnessed myself, for my own clients. And that is, you mentioned that self-doubt. Who am I to embody these beautiful energies? Who am I to talk
Hmm.
about, certain beings? Because we create this
Hmm.
hierarchy, that,
Hmm.
people or beings are above us, and when we're just, not worthy of being the channel for them, or whatever it is. So I'm so glad that you shared that with us. And for any of the listeners that might be sitting with this and they fear, oh, they'll be labeled as a charlatan if they start speaking about actually
Hmm.
these bigger energies that they're connected with. What is one piece of advice you could give them in this moment that they could take away and really, sit with that, or shift this mindset or this energy?
Yeah. Let's see if I can come up with a really good one since I teach this, on a course. I would say the biggest place to start is listening. Sacred callings are to be followed, not led. A
Mm,
lot of times we want to perhaps say, okay, I found it, I found it. What do I do with this? Okay, I need to start a website. I need to, start coaching. I need to whatever. It's like, whoa,
mhm.
whoa. It's really a matter of allowing us to open to what this truly is. And if we listen to it, and if we ask, and we ask to follow the calling, like I kept asking, okay, what is it you want me to do? How do I express this? Am I to bring it out into the world or not? That's another thing about callings. Sometimes they are just about how you live your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes the callings are about something to bring out into the world. And that's why I wrote a book called Sacred Ambition, because along with callings, they're going to ask everything of you. Now, and when I say that, people go, whoa, I'm not sure I want to, go into this territory, but it's true. If you are going to follow a calling, everything will be asked of you. I call it being all in. And then we've got issues around being all in. What does that really mean? So it's listening. It's saying, I'm just going to sit here and listen. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to journal. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do whatever, invoke, do ritual. It's like I'm going to listen. What's next? Is there a next step? Is there a way that I need to bring more of this calling into my life? What would that look like? And it will show you. I mean, you are following, your divine blueprint. You are following who you truly are. So it will show you. And then as it begins to show me, it's like then I had to say, okay, well, you want me to do that? All right. Here we go. So, following a calling is like we got to step out. We've got to put on our big girl panties or our big boy pants and step out in bigger ways. And all I can say is every time you step out, if that is what you're being called to do, from your calling, you will be met.
Mm,
You will be met. You will never be left high and dry, or, you will be met. And all of that self-doubt, that worry, that, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't say that. What would people think? They'll think blah, blah, blah. It's like all of that disappears. It just evaporates when we step into it and claim it more and more and more. And it's a gradual process. It has been for me. I now don't hesitate about talking about this and teaching about this. And I also know that not everyone's ready, because callings for me are they're very precious
mm,
and require really stepping into our power
yeah.
and our ambition in a very different way. And power is one of those things where people go, whoa,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be powerful. I don't know if people want, I don't want people to see me as powerful. Well, when you're in your sacred calling, the power is not abusive. It is a power that informs, uplifts, clarifies, opens, all. It blesses.
Hmm. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. And, it is such, even though it's a big life journey,
Hmm.
it's such an introspective one as well. And we can tend to abdicate our own power, wanting someone else to tell us the way, when the way is
Hmm.
inside of us. And that alone is just so powerful, so precious for for the listeners too, that may be sort of at that crossroads, knowing
Hmm.
that they're feeling called but it doesn't make sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you talk about this in your book.
Yes, I do. I talk about that more. I talk about the bright, shiny objects that we can go down the path and go, ooh,
Yeah.
I want to go do that. Bright, shiny objects. That's one of the big traps. Because, once you start, maybe let's say your calling is about bringing it out into the world, like mine was. Mine was taking mine to the next level of my teaching, being out in a bigger way. On the internet or on stage. I did big stage events and things like that. It's like bright, shiny objects, right? And camera action, and maybe I'm making more money, and maybe I have more people on my email list, and it's all of this glamour that can go along with it, and that's got to be confronted and walked through and walked up to and go, oh, okay, I get it. That's not what this is about. And we have to, that's how we learn. That's how we learn from following. a calling, and pulling back the ego, if you will. That's another bright shining object, and saying, no, that's not what this is about. I'm going to just sit here and listen. And the thing is, though, it's I don't want to just talk about the challenges, because the blessings and the joy and the delight and the aliveness and the vitality that following a calling brings to your life, at least it brought to my life. To me, it's like I wouldn't want to do anything else. Uh, I wouldn't want to bring forward my gifts, my talents, my teachings, myself into the world any other way, because it is the truth of who you are. It is the vibration, the frequency, the depth of what you came this lifetime to manifest in your life, to fulfill yourself. And to me, that's really what my life is about, is fulfilling myself in the divine way, in the spiritual way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And would you say, Rebecca, that you know, just by following your sacred calling, that, yes, there's all the shiny objects things because we think they make their lives easier, and they do, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But by following our calling, that abundance or that divine compensation, whatever we want to call this, it's naturally activated
Mm-hmm.
as the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's you're manifesting. So what is in that divine blueprint of who you are to step more into? And, I've worked with lots of people around this, and it's always such a surprise and a delight. It's like, wow, I didn't know this was part of it, kind of thing. So it's, yeah, it is such a rich, expansive space to live in from your calling, and then to bring it out into the world again. However, maybe you bring it out in your family, maybe you bring it out in your parenting. It doesn't necessarily have to be a career or that kind of thing. It can be the way I want to live my life. Maybe your calling is a full heart. And so you decide to show up every day as well as you can with a full heart. Well, that right there is going to bring lots of blessings, in my opinion.
Yes. I just love that. That is just so beautiful. So beautiful. So for those listening in, and they want to go deeper with this work, obviously you have the book,
Mm-hmm.
and one that's been very freshly released. So where can we find you? Where can we get a copy of this book?
So my guess is you have listeners all over the world. So, I mean, I hope it's available in other countries outside the United States. But in the United States, you can go to your local bookstore and order it. It's called Manifest Your Sacred Ambition. Summon your heart's calling into bold, loving action. My hope is you'll have that link or something there. You can go to the bookstore. You can go to Amazon. Just Google me, Rebecca E. Skeele, and it'll come up. If it's outside the country, I do know the UK can order it. My guess is Australia could. I don't really know. And the thing that I want to say, which I love, is that if you're Bulgarian and you're listening to this, actually it's in Bulgarian.
Yeah.
So I have a group over there that I work with, and they decided to translate the book, so it is in Bulgarian. But you can find me at www.rebeccaeskeele.com. Lots of E's, but it's all one word, rebeccaeskeele.com. And lots more about courses, classes, a membership, and just contact me. I'm also on Facebook. If you Google my name and ask to friend me, I'm on Facebook. So
Beautiful. Thank you. And I will make sure that we put all of those links in the episode details. Rebecca, thank you so much for being here and sharing your you're calling with us today. What a blessing. And it's just so beautiful to meet you. Yeah, I'm just being guided to ask you one last thing for the listeners, which I haven't done before, but that is, if you could go back to when your sacred calling first started to, you first began to have that awareness drop in,
Mhm.
what would you have told yourself back then, maybe to ease the process a little?
That really touched me. That's a beautiful question. What would I have said? Um, Relax, be patient, all will unfold.
Mm, thank you. I've got chills. So, so beautiful. Okay. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And thank you to our beautiful listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following us and leaving us a review. Until next time, we will see you then. Bye.